Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar, Driving Student Engagement and Learning Results with Itslearning. My name is Mauricio Romero from the Higher Education Department at Itslearning, and I'm sitting here with Trond Skeie, a education specialist at Itslearning. Trond is going to present us a recipe to boost student engagement by maximizing the student's potential. We're going to deep dive into the potential of Office 365 integration with Itslearning.
Thank you, Mauricio, for that great introduction. As Mauricio said, my name is Trond Skeie. I'm working as a marketing and sales manager in Itslearning, but I have a deep knowledge of education because I've been working as a teacher before I joined this company. So during the next 25 minutes, I will take you to this webinar about driving engagement and therefore also learning results. So we have a short agenda today. We are going to go into the main presentation, and then after that we will show you some more resources that we have gathered for you. This webinar is being recorded, so you will actually get the recording sent afterwards, and we also will provide you with the slides here. And if there are any questions, you can of course submit those questions during the webinar. For those who are new to webinars, there is a question or a chat function on your right side of your screen. Please use them. We will try to address as many questions as possible at the end of the webinar. And for those questions that we cannot address, we will send a summary to all of you. So let's just start with the main presentation. Some of this stuff, you will see today is based on my own experience, and some is based on really good stories from our customers, all over the world. So it's a combination of that, So just a few slides before we go into the product and show you real life examples. I was thinking about when I was working in school about who motivates my students, and of course there is many things that can motivate students. We know that peers is very important. We know that social media is important to engage students. We know teachers, society, friends, and family, and of course there can be a lot of other groups that motivate students. But like a summary for this, is what matters to students. Is of course to being seen. Everyone likes to be seen. Everyone likes to be given attention. Everyone is want to be recognized for what they're doing, and what they have achieved. And everyone wants to be accepted, And when I made this presentation, I just was looking back through some of my notes from Teacher Academy, like in old days, and I kind of found this very related to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where I think we can put this into the green zone here of esteem. We want to status, we want to be recognized, and we want to have respect, So what does this actually mean in terms of Itslearning and a learning management system? Well, first of all, I kind of want to admit something to you, and that is, how can Itslearning motivate students? Actually, I don't believe a system as Itslearning can motivate students by itself, because it's a computer system, it's a software, online software, but I really believe in that Itslearning can be used in different ways to motivate students. And that is what this webinar is all about, how can Itslearning, a software as Itslearning, be used to motivate students, So I made a short recipe, and this is what I'm going to show you some real examples from. And I think the recipe is about creating engagement by maximizing the potential of Itslearning, And I could speak for this for 3 or 4 hours, but we only have like 20 minutes, so I will cover 3 areas, which is essential areas actually of Itslearning, and that is tests, assignment, and self-assessment. 3 areas where I really believe that we can maximize the potential here. Through this presentation, I will go into Itslearning, and I will be presenting this as Tarja, is a teacher, and he's teaching in different courses. And I will also be showing this from a student perspective, and that's Nikolai. So Nikolai is the student and Tarja is the teacher here. Just a background from this school, they have Office 365 as their cloud solution, and I will show how they can combine this with Itslearning. So the first thing I would like to show you is the test tool. I'm going to a demo course I created just for this webinar. For those of you not familiar with Itslearning, a course is just a place where you interact and engage with your students. To save some time, I have pre-created a test here. I'm going to show you it here. And this is a test about the inner forces of the earth. Using quizzes and tests, it's kind of very common. Multiple choice questions. So that's not the case here. What I want to show you is that I do have a lot of questions here, and I can run this to my student. But the great thing is that I can engage my student even more by choosing, for example, a number of attempts. From my experience, having just one attempt, is just you take the test, and you get your judgment, you get the result. But by giving him access to the test, maybe a week before, and setting up unlimited numbers of attempts, you engage them because they can take this test over and over again. They can improve their results. They can even see from their own personal reports that they are improving. So just by simple choosing this test setting, and make a little different attempt, version of the test, you engage them. So what I've seen done in schools, is that teachers, they give, or universities, they give access to the test, maybe 2 weeks before the real test, and students have the options, they have the choice to take the test as many times as they like, and that is so engaging for them. But the test tool, is really more powerful, because the way it is today, is that typically in a learning management system, everything is controlled by the teacher. It's a teacher who adds contents, it's a teacher who adds the tests. It's very much in control of the teacher. So what I will show you is that in this course, I made an open folder for my students. So what's the purpose of making an open folder? Well, first of all, for those of you who are using Itslearning, I can just show you how this is done. It's just a simple thing of adding a folder, giving it a name. Of course, you can choose another name. Save the folder, and then make it available for all my students or a selected number of students. And I'm doing that by just checking these 3 dots here and overruling the permissions. So by simply just selecting all my students, I would like everyone to participate in this folder. And then I can of course go to the folder, and I can go in here and I can select the elements I want my student to use. I don't want my student to use all the options in Itslearning. I only want them to use, for instance, tests. By just this simple kind of action here, if I now switch to the student, to Nikolai here, and I go into the same course, suddenly he's able to participate here. He's just not is not doing what the instructor tells him. He's able to be producing content himself, you know. So in here, he can go in and he can add tests, you know. So he can add tests. He can add tests for his peer students, and therefore he's engaging his peer students, you know, and add questions, you know. Another thing you can do here is, of course, you can go in and you can tell your students to, I want you to create the final test. So please add 10 questions each, and I will pick the 10 best questions from my student group, and I will use that for the final test, you know. And everyone knows that if they are adding a really good question, maybe their questions will be selected for the final test, you know. So this is kind of moving from students being reproductive to being productive and actually engaging themselves and their peers, you know. Everything within the kind of the framework of the test tool in Itslearning. So that was just 2 tips about the test tool, you know, how you can use this tool and engage your students, you know. Let's go back to the teacher again, you know. A very common tool is the assignment tool, where you give an assignment that student can hand in and you can assess them. So I will show this and give you some real examples of how you can use this and how to combine this with Office 365, you know, to really make it simple to have a good workflow and engage your student. But since this is a webinar about engagement, I would like to engage all of you who is participating today. So I have a poll for you. If you please answer that, it's completely anonymous, and we will spend like 20 seconds on that. So please give me an answer of, have your organization integrated Office 365 or G Suite with Itslearning? So please respond, and I will tell you the results afterward, completely anonymous. Okay, I'm gonna have it open for 5 more seconds. Okay, I'm going to close it now, and these are the results, you know. So you see here that okay, nearly half of you have done this, you know, and some have not. So now I'm going to show you how powerful this actually can be. For those of you who haven't done it, please go and do so. So in here, I'm going to go into my webinar demo course, and I'm going to add an assignment. I'm just going to do that quickly by clicking the add button at the top right corner. Add an assignment. That's how quick it actually is. And this is a task about, we're going to talk about the 4th grade. And the 4th grade is about the 4th grade Norwegian writers, you know. And there are 4 Norwegian, for those who are Norwegian, you know that this is Ibsen and Kielland and Lee and those guys. So I want my students to submit an answer, you know, and of course I can just post this now, and they can attach a document the way they like. But what I would do is I would use a template. I have created a template. I'm using that for all my courses, and by clicking add file here, I have actual access to my computer, of course, and I have access to all the cloud systems that my organization have integrated. And you see in this example we both have Google and Office 365. So by choosing Office 365, I get directly access to my OneDrive with no actually extra login, and I also have access to SharePoint. And SharePoint is a combination of SharePoint areas and Teams area. For those who are using Microsoft Teams, you have access to the content here. I can use this when doing this assignment. But I will go in here and I will go into resources and I will pick the 4 grade document here, and I will use this as a template. And how this is done is actually, if I zoom in here to make it more visible for you, I select make a copy for each student, meaning that I'm sending this out to my students and Itslearning will take care of the writes, so I will have access to all the documents and the student, they can write directly into this template. And of course I go on the right side here and I select all the kind of deadlines I need, the assessment scales I would like to use. And you see here I can also go and I can, by simply checking one of these boxes, I can require self-assessment or peer assessment. I'm going to show you the self-assessment a little bit later. Even if this is done from Office 365, I can go in here and I can activate the plagiarism control. So that is actually available even if we are using Office 365. I'm not going to do it now. And maybe give them some instructions, you know, here. Use the template. And then I'm ready to go and submit this out to them. So create assignment, and by magic now this is distributed to all my students. Unfortunately this site is actually in Norwegian originally, so it says on status here, it says ikke levert, which means not submitted, you know, so that's the reason why there is some Norwegian in here. Okay, I've done this, you know, it should be ready for Nikolai to submit, so I'm going to just switch over to Nikolai. Here we are. Of course he will be notified on his mobile phone that he has an assignment. You can also see this as a task on his start page. And it's actually due tomorrow, so let's just open this one. And you saw that there was just one click, you know, to get to the actual assignment, and there's one more click and the document is opening, and then Nikolai can actually start writing directly into the template here, you know. And this could be any template. This is just a very simple template. It could be a template in a lab exercise, it could be a language, it could be any template you like to use. Not only covering Word, but of course you can use PowerPoint and Excel as well, you know. So he was created. This student he's starting to work on his document, you know. So let's say he is kind of needs to go. He wants to leave this document now, but he's not submitting. He needs to do some more work, you know, on this document. And let's say this was a task he's working for 2 weeks on. The great thing about this integration is that now this teacher, he can go in and engage in the process of Nikolai's writing. So let me go back to the teacher again. Let me just go and just reload this, you know, so I get the latest updates. If you scroll down the list here, you know, not submitted, you see on Nikolai it says not submitted, but there is a little kind of red dot behind that. That means that Nikolai has actually opened the template. He has started on his assignment. He's starting writing on it, you know. I can go in now and see how far it's got, you know. Let's see, it's in a draft here. But I can look at his document, you know. If I like, I can make a comments directly into his in a Word document, or I can use the discussion box here on the right side to kind of recognize him for what it's done, you know, and try to motivate him to do even more. So, good start. Please write some more. The great thing about this is actually, this is when I click add now, this is being posted to his stream. It's being posted to his cell phone as a push message, so he can actually see that, oh, my teacher is giving me some feedback, he's giving me some tips, you know. So this is a conversation, you know. Now it's on his cell phone, you know, and he can of course respond to that. So now this student is being seen, he's being recognized, you know, he's being kind of motivation to complete this task, you know. So going back to the student, he's ready now to finalize this, so he's opening it up again. Yes, before we do that, you know, we should just reload this to make sure that we got delayed. He's logging on, yes, and when he's logging on, he sees that there is a comment from his teachers. And say, okay, I'll do that. And he can open document, he can do some more editing to the document, and when he is finished, he can just submit it, you know. So that is something that is really engaging about this tool, you know. I'm not going to give the final feedback here on this document because we only have a couple of minutes left, you know, but I will go in and show you the self-assessment. So I made an example here on the ancient Rome, you know. This is just an assignment, you know, and you see Nikolai here, he has not submitted, but he made a draft. In this example, he's just kind of putting his answer straight into the editor in Itslearning, where he could of course combine this with videos and pictures, you know. But he will now, he's finished now, so he will submit this. And since the teacher, he has chosen to include a self-assessment, the self-assessment task is popping up immediately here. So once submitted, you get a new task, assess yourself. And by scrolling down here, you can actually go in and he can use exactly the same assessment methodology that the teacher has selected. So you can say, well, I think this is a C, or maybe it's a B. I think I deserve a B, and you can write his reflections here. You know, I was very motivated. Students of today, they love video, so of course you can use video and sound as a self-reflection tool. You don't have to write it in as well. And then you can save this, and this is being kind of connected, you know. So we see a lot of people using self-assessment, but they're using different documents. With this, it's always connected to the assignment and to the written answer of the student, you know. So that was just two simple ways of two tools in Itslearning combined with self-assessment, you know. These tools are used every day by our customers, you know, but I really want to emphasize that if you can use these tools in a different way, in a better way to maximize the potential, you can really engage your student even further. We are kind of running out of time. I'm going to just hand the word over to my colleague here, and I'm going to check if there are any questions, and we have a couple of minutes where you can answer a couple of questions. Okay, we have a question here. If you use the template for a group assignment, will each member of the group get a copy of the template, or will they have the same copy and be able to co-work in this document? The answer is that if you have a template and you check for group hand-in, the group will have one copy and they will be co-writing in the same document. It's really powerful. They can do that live actually, and I've done it with some classes, you know. And there's also about a question about is the assessment scale predetermined, or the instructor can change it from assignment to assignment? Yes, there are some predetermined assessment scales made available for your school, but any teacher can go and create their own assessment scales, and they can choose that assessment scale from assignment to assignment, you know. So it's really powerful, you know, and flexible, you know. So the last question, can you attach a document for pupils to use while they're self-assessing their work, such as the mark scheme? Not in the current version, but that is on the roadmap, you know. So this self-assessment tool, you will be able to actually to add like a template or a mark scheme for that, you know. And you're looking forward to that. Thank you. So those were the some of the questions, you know, we just picked up, you know, and we will end this webinar I will hand it back to you, Mauricio, and you will give some information about what's coming up.
Great. So thank you again for your questions and for sticking in around. Here are some useful links with more information about Itslearning, student engagement, and we will add some more about Office 365. We will also upload this recording to YouTube, and you will find these links in the description. This video will be sent to all the registrants there today. And don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter, as we will post more information about the next webinar session soon. And by the way, our next webinar is called Effectively Combining Office 365 with Your Learning Platform. It's going to be run by Philip Duffield, our pedagogical consultant, and we will add the registration link in the description of this recording. Here are also some other webinars we ran earlier this year that we recommend to watch again, or if you haven't, just give them a try. And thank you. Thank you, Trond.
Okay, thank you, Mauricio. It's a pleasure, and we like to say goodbye to all of you, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.